overall terrible conditions. That Judaism was about being active in the world, that Judaism was a system of rendering the world complete, about working for justice. He was so insistent on this point, a sort of tradition of Jewish rationalism, that he held even figures like Karl Marx and Spinoza, erstwhile radical Jews, as really conservatives. They were conservatives because Marx was a conservative, because he had a determinist picture of the world where everything was moving in a sort of direction that even without agency or will, it would go the way it was. That Spinoza cut off all possibilities for agency because he said that the world in some ways was determined. In contrast, Schwarzschild saw the world as radically unfinished, and importantly, aligned himself in his ideas with certain political movements. He declared that he himself and that all good Jews should be vegetarians, pacifists, and democratic socialists. He believed that pacifism was essential to Judaism, and that reading against the grain of the rabbis and the received tradition of Judaism, even Heschel was not a pacifist, that Judaism was essentially about a pacifist position. Now, as with most pacifists I have known, his rhetoric was quite violent and militant. I want to offer you some of that. Now, Schwarzschild was also aligned with the various political movements, of course, the anti-war movement. But one thing very interesting was that his reactions to the Black Power movement were reactions that one often does not hear in mainstream establishment Jewish circles. Consider this quote from a contribution to the late 60s Symposium on Blacks and Jews. And he called this ethics, and I call this paper, the ethics that issues forth from where Africa and Asia conjoin. The ethics from where Africa and Asia conjoin. He says, the people of Israel are chosen as a specific instrument through which the kingdom is to be brought about, and who therefore labor under responsibilities not imposed on anyone else. Blacks and other oppressed groups are entirely right when they expect immensely higher standards of behavior from Jews than from anyone else. Rather than expect to be treated with reciprocal respect or to see Jewish suffering as comparable and worthy of black sympathy, Schwarzschild bucked conventional wisdom by insisting that Jews must act regardless of the response of the other. Here's what he says. Israel is not in this game on a tit-for-tat basis. Were this the case, we would have had to abandon the striving for mankind's good life a long time ago. We must continue to enact an attitude of complete color blindness and a dedication to the total abolition of social injustices, regardless of the cost to us. He went on to say, the civil rights movement and Messianic Judaism are at one, in that their aim is not delayed and partial, but complete and immediate. We are committed, body and soul, to the good society, all of it here and now and everywhere. Action, both individual and collective, is imperative, total, revolutionary action. The Jewish program must therefore be, in effect, messianic. There's no compromising with Schwarzschild. One lived one's life as if in messianic times. Vegetarian, pacifist, socialist. This reaction was quite different, as we heard from Jane, from the segments of the Jewish population who reacted to the aggressiveness of the Black Power, some parts of the Black Power movement, with disdain and sort of disillusionment over the Black freedom struggle. In contrast, Schwarzschild saw criticisms of anti-Semitism as having some warrant, and that it's not up to Jews to base their activities and alliances with the virtues or exaggerations of the groups that they are called upon to help out with. And this conception of Judaism also harbors very interesting implications, which I wanted to talk about at the end. one that Judaism is an attitude and a stance, has almost nothing to do with genetics or biology or stock. And in this way, he said that somebody like Kant or Jean-Paul Sartre were Jews. You didn't have to be Jewish to be Jewish. You just have to enact a radical program of world transformation, social justice, and a sense of the world as incomplete and yet changeable, never quite getting to that messianic, perfect society. His messianic ethics, this call for radical revolution, a rethinking and reweaving of all the world, put him in opposition to things like nature, natural law, and he's talk of natural or material reality that was resistant to change. This was a conception of Judaism that was idealistic and without, maybe unrecognizable to many of us today. On another side, we have another sort of moment in Jewish theology articulating at the same time. And I just want to say a few words about what you might call the right-wing side of Jewish theology. And that is in the figures also both German Jewish immigrants, Emil Fackenheim and Michael Vissergrad. Emil Fackenheim is quite well known, very influential today. I'm working on a piece that actually talks about the latest Heidegger controversy in relationship to Fackenheim. Fackenheim, who coined the phrase, you heard it before from Lily, that Jews are commanded not to give Hitler any posthumous victories. Have you heard this phrase before? Mm-hmm. Jews are not allowed to give Hitler any posthumous victories, and that means for Fackenheim that Jews have to survive. They have to survive at all costs, that the state of Israel has to be guarded, that the state of Israel is the form of resistance to Jewish nothingness, nihilism, and that all people have to be Zionists, all people have to work for the security of the state of Israel. This was an empowering, energizing theology that emerged out of Fackenheim's reaction to the Holocaust at a conference that Schwarzschild himself convened in the late 60s, but later drifts as Fackenheim, who settles in Toronto, moves to the state of Israel and ends up the very political movements that F.E.A. Tam represents. He supported the very right-wing settler movement. He saw all the land of Israel as Jewish land. He believed that Israel was exclusively for the Jews and Arabs that would accept the Jewish state and the Jewish presence without criticism. He praised as heroic the settler movement for its resistance to being uprooted and demonized by the Palestinian liberation movement. And in fact, he saw Judaism as a material thing of bodies and survival.